Now, I like Japanese cinema, specifically samurai films. It's a taste that has been ingrained in me by my father. They've been compared to the Western genre, which makes a lot of sense because the similarities are strikingly apparent. So much so that if you wanted to, you could easily adapt every Western into a samurai film and every samurai film into a Western. Even though I love the genre, I will sadly never be able to jump into these films and experience what it might be like to be a lone samurai in feudal Japan. That experience is regrettably out of my reach. Perhaps it is a blessing in disguise, though, that I am not a real Ronin in feudal Japan, because in the present, I can experience these narratives to some extent through video games, and that does not have a real threat to my safety or health. Granted, I have not played many games featuring these historic warriors from the past. Those that come to mind are games like Nioh and Nioh 2, Sekiro, Shadow Tactics, For Honor in a way, and of course, while it isn't samurai, mini ninjas. My favorite, however, and the only game that has really emulated the feeling of being inside your very own samurai film, is Ghost of Tsushima. When it came out in 2020, it blew me away. Everything, to the combat, to the narrative, to the visuals, to the acting, everything was phenomenal. So phenomenal that when I finished it and the subsequent DLC, its absence left a great hole inside me that yearned for samurai video game content. Nothing could compare to it, and while the sequel, Ghost of Yotei, had been announced and was on the horizon, I was craving something now. That is when I turned to Assassin's Creed Shadows. I have a love-hate relationship with the Assassin's Creed franchise. I remember playing the originals as a child, and they were pretty fun. My favorite thing to do was purposely pickpocket people in a way that they would notice that they would pick a fight with me, and then I would fist fight and knock them out and then steal all of their money again. I enjoyed the Black Flag DLC and Assassin's Creed Rogue. I hadn't really ever beaten an Assassin's Creed game, but I was ready to with Assassin's Creed Shadows. So I was excited for Unity, but when that fell flat, I got off the Assassin's Creed bandwagon. That has not stopped Ubisoft, though, which are the developers of the series. And as it's one of their, if not main series, they are determined to not let it die. And after Syndicate, they took a small hiatus to reimagine the franchise, thus beginning a new era influenced by an RPG style of gameplay. I hadn't played any of their games since Unity, and I was skeptical of the new format, but my desire to experience something, even if it was only barely similar to Ghost of Tsushima, was too great, so I decided to try it out. Suffice it to say, it did not compare, but I never thought it would. Assassin's Creed Shadows isn't a bad game, but it isn't terribly good either. It's quite middle of the road, kind of mediocre. There are certainly things I enjoyed, and there are certainly things I did not. The game features two protagonists, the young shinobi Naoe and the hulking samurai Yasuke, who is based on a real person known to have existed during that time, and a samurai under Lord Oda Nobunaga. The game itself takes place during a time of particular turmoil in the 16th century, revolving around Oda Nobunaga's ascension to power, his death, and the subsequent power grab scramble that ensued. The game begins with the introduction of Yasuke, who is a slave to Portuguese missionaries, but he is soon freed by Oda Nobunaga, who sees his potential to be a formidable soldier and loyal ally. He is trained as a samurai, and we cut forward to Nobunaga's conquest of the shinobi village of Iga, where Naoe and her father reside. As both Naoe and Yasuke, we cut through Egan's and Nobunaga's men, and Naoe is tasked with retrieving a special box by her father. But when she gets a hold of it, she is surprised, knocked out, and the box is stolen from her. Her wounded father then takes her to a place in order to heal, and Naoe goes out to get the box again. Using her shinobi training, she successfully sneaks into a small fortress to retrieve the box and kill the man who stole it. But on her way out, she is again surprised, this time by a bullet, and the box is taken again, stolen by a shadowy, mask-wearing secret cabal called the Shinbaku. Before they kill Naoe, her wounded father jumps in to save her, but is then killed. Naoe does not die, and is taken in by a monk and a young boy. It is there that she heals and prepares for her quest for revenge, to kill those who murdered her father and take back the box she promised to protect. It is by no means a bad story that has been set up. However, shortly after this, it more or less falls flat in its execution. But first, let me get the things I liked out of the way. Sneaking around as a nimble, unseen ninja is incredibly fun. Climbing your way up buildings and crawling in the grass and assassinating guards in towns, castles, and fortresses, it really never got that old. Playing as Naoe has a deceptive charm that I wouldn't really have guessed it would. Unlike Yasuke, who is a brute of a man and cannot really even climb buildings, which is a staple of the franchise, Naoe is smaller, athletic, and just overall more fun to play in my opinion. Playing as Yasuke felt more like playing a cheap copy of the God of War games. I do appreciate the inclusion of dual protagonists, each with their own unique playstyle, and the freedom to pick which one you'll use more, but I definitely like Naoe a lot more. The option to pick your own weapons was also quite nice. Unlike in Ghost of Tsushima, where Jin only ever uses his katana, Naoe and Yasuke each have a few weapons that they can pick from. Naoe gets either her katana, tanto, or kusarigama, while Yasuke can have his katana, which is considerably larger than Naoe's, a naginata, or a tetsubo. Each weapon has its own strengths and weaknesses, and affects how you may play the game. For instance, while Naoe's katana is more straightforward, using the tanto will require you to position yourself behind your opponent in order to get the most out of it. Being able to customize how you'll play is always a great deal of fun. Another thing I enjoyed was the inclusion of castles, fortresses, and towns. While Ghost of Tsushima doesn't have an abundance of any of these things, acting as a shinobi and infiltrating a Japanese castle, crawling with samurai guards and nobles, and making it across their moats and around their nightingale floors was always a pleasure. The open world itself felt largely empty, and it was by no means small. There was a lot of unused or uninteresting space for Naoe and her trusty steed to just traverse through, and it's a bit telling when the game developers add an option to auto-ride to a marked location so that you can go fuck off and do something else, or just get on your phone until Naoe makes her way over to where she's supposed to be. The last thing that I liked was the revenge story plotline. I enjoy these stories. Some say that they are overused, and I would agree. Sometimes they can be. However, it works particularly well for this genre. The concept of a lone shinobi and samurai hunting down a mysterious cabal with unique masks and nicknames is engaging. The actual execution of this quest, however, is not. Most of, if not the entirety of the game, focuses on tracking down every member of the Shinbaku and assassinating them. It is Assassin's Creed after all. But since there are 12 members of the shadowy cabal, you never get enough time, ever, to adequately develop them as a threat. You're more or less just told about them. The entire game boils down to going to a location that has a member of the Shinbaku in it, doing a few quests relating to figuring out who's under the mask, and then killing them. I found the assassinations to always be incredibly underwhelming. They were always just some uninteresting boss fight, or perhaps even just a cutscene. For instance, one of the first Shinbaku you get to kill is nicknamed the Golden Teppo, and is the one who shot Naoe. You're tasked with figuring out her identity at a tea ceremony that you are invited to. They play it like a mystery, but it doesn't take Sherlock Holmes to figure out which one of these supposed targets is actually the Golden Teppo. If you pick correctly, which I did, you follow her back to her house, and I will let the clip speak for itself.
You can have it all. I started with nothing. I can do it again.
There is nothing here that I want.
You must want something.
I want my father back.
Yep, pretty awkward, very anticlimactic, and dull. But I learned that if I chose the wrong person, I would then get to battle my way up to the top of a still under construction castle, all the while the Golden Teppo fires shots at me, and that I was robbed of this possibly fun and interesting experience because I wasn't a fool. It made me ask, wait, why was this even an option to begin with? They could have just easily made it so that you try to shoot her in her home, but then she gets away and then the castle fight ensues. But no, they didn't do that. I think that perfectly encapsulates the game as a whole. Missed opportunities. Even though it may seem like a personal quest for vengeance, as the game continues, it becomes increasingly obvious that vengeance for her father's murder is only a secondary goal for Naoe and her growing legion of allies. Instead, she seems to care more about getting the mysterious box back. She is tricked into killing Oda Nobunaga, who was posed to be the leader of the shadowy cabal, but since that makes no sense, why would they let you kill off the leader of the shadowy cabal 1/4 of the way through the game? So it wasn't very surprising to figure out he was, in fact, not the target, but rather the man who set it all up was. It's around here when one really begins to check out. You still have 9 more uninteresting members of the Shinbaku to cleave through before you can uncover who the leader is. So you kill one, then you kill another, then you meet some side characters, then you kill some more. You meet historical figures, and that's cool, and something that the franchise is known for, but it takes a backseat. At least I say it takes a backseat, but I don't know what it's taking a backseat for because nothing is there. By the time I had 3 Shinbaku left, progressing through the game started to feel more like a chore. It wasn't fun. It was fun at the start, but it quickly lost that aspect. Let me just rapid fire some more things that I didn't like. Some of the music choices were confusing and didn't fit tonally with the game.
Why have we stopped? waiting for? Attack! Attack!
Lots of the acting and character animation left a lot to be desired. There weren't enough animations specifically for the parkour or enemy executions. It was cool the first few times when Naoe does a triple rolling backflip off of the smallest building in all of Japan, but it gets pretty stale pretty fast. There are only so many times I'm going to enjoy seeing Naoe flip over a guard and slice his throat with her katana. And finally, the game itself had some visual and gameplay bugs. Ubisoft isn't known for releasing the most polished final product, so I actually knew what I was getting into regarding that. For a AAA, fully priced game, Assassin's Creed Shadows is certainly not worth the money or the time it takes to play it, especially when, Ghost of Tsushima and Ghost of Yode are right there. But anyway, yeah, that's just my opinion. Like I said, mediocre game, not the best, missed opportunities a lot. Thanks for watching. Sorry for the incessant rambling. Yeah, you know the drill by now.